Damons from both sides or something, and he's unloading those Zealots here in the middle of the field. Oh, he's going to be using this shuttle to ferry his troops outside of his main so that he can either counter Damon or he can come up here and assault this contain from both sides. He's sending those Zealots into Damon's base, and that will wreak havoc, actually. He does have a bunker back here by his gas with no Marines in it. But Scorpio is going to be trying to harass Damon and keep him off of him by ferrying some units out here into the field from his main base. And that is a good idea. That is a good idea by Scorpio. And you'd expect that from a player of his level to be thinking of a good strategy to counter this, because that contain is going to be extremely hard to break. And Damon microing these two tanks around, not wanting to lose them to Zealots. Tanks are fairly easily to micro versus Zealots. And those Zealots are going to go down without causing really any damage. It's engineering bay is for vision so that Damon can see over that ramp and be able to fire on those Dragoons way sooner and use the maximum range of his tanks, because tanks can shoot farther than they can see. I believe they have a range of 13 and only a sight range of 10, so they can shoot a significant amount further than they can see, and that engineering bay is going to help with that. Those Dragoons coming under fire, and he's not going to be able to break this contain unless he gets some amazing storms off or something. He does manage to take that one tank down, and he storms on this tank. That tank goes down, so he does take two tanks down, and he needs to retreat and save these units now. There he goes. He's just trying to harass the engineering bay and take that down, and he is going to take that down, and that is going to hurt because Damon isn't going to be able to see up that ramp, and that's going to give Scorpio an elevation advantage. And without him being able to see up his ramp, Damon is only going to have a 70% success rate of hitting these units when he's firing at them at a higher elevation. And that bunker goes down, and that's big. Damon kind of lapsing on his micro and not repairing that for a second because he's trying to build this engineering bay. He realizes that it's important to have that vision up that ramp. And he was building an engineering bay, and Scorpio took advantage of the opportunity to take down that bunker. This game is very interesting, very crazy. Constant action, and Damon is just not going to want to let Scorpio out of his base. He really wants to establish map control, and Damon is the first player to get an expansion started, and Scorpio has a probe in the shuttle. He's going to be trying to set up an expo outside somewhere where Damon isn't going to expect it or know that it's coming from, and he's going to try to let Damon think he has an massive economic lead when he really doesn't, but he is going to be ahead economically anyway. And you got Damon at 56 out of 58 supply, while Scorpio's at 73 out of 73 supply. So Scorpio is pylon stuck. He has 1,100 minerals. He needs to find a way to get broke and break this containment. But it's just going to be really hard because the longer he waits, the more bunkers, the more turrets, the more tanks are going to be there to stop any type of advancement that he has, and he can only move 2 units out of that ramp at once. Here he comes advancing on the tank. He's going to take that tank down. It only gets one shot off on those Dragoons. So Scorpio doing good there. He's really trying to battle and not let Damon get too crazy of a contain here outside of his base, because he's going to have to break that at some point or he's going to lose this game. If Damon can keep this contain going, Scorpio's going to lose this game, and here he comes assaulting this contain again. Those Zealots are going down before they do any damage. He's retreating them now, but they're coming under fire from the siege tanks, and this is just not looking good. Scorpio down to 84 supply, or I should say up to 84 supply, and Damon at 62 supply. Neither player has any type of upgrades going right now. Damon is researching mines at his machine shop, and Scorpio is using these shuttles. He does have this expansion going up here on the top right. That base is an island type base, so you cannot get to this base by land. It's only accessible by dropship, but Damon does know it's there because his barracks floated over it. And dropping an Archon in Damon's base, that's very interesting. He's going to try to take down that dropship, but honestly, I think that was a waste of 300 gas. Archons cost 300 gas, and he dropped one Archon into Damon's base just to basically harass, and that's a really expensive and unlucrative harass there. He would have been better off to just send an observer down there and see what was going on than drop the Archon, I believe. But either way, he's dropping 2 tanks down here to try to assault on this expansion that Scorpio has set up, and he's going to need to drop some Zealots here. But he's bringing down 1 Dragoon, and that's not going to cut it versus these 4 Zealots. That'll do the trick. 4 Zealots are going to be able to take down this tank that he has in here. He needs to pick those up again and drop them up here in this tank, which he does do. So he is going to take down those 2 tanks and keep this expansion up and running, which is very important because Scorpio has to find a way to keep this expansion running. If this expansion goes down, the game is over, because Damon has his natural expo pumping resources. He's got 2 gas going, and Scorpio does not have any probes on that gas, probably because he has 800 gas in the bank, and his main is completely mined out. Wow. Scorpio's main is completely mined out. So you can really tell how more efficient Damon's been mining and how much faster he got this expo set up, because Damon's main is still very lucrative. He's got about 20% of the minerals in his main left, and Scorpio is completely mined out with about 22 probes just sitting there doing nothing. Um, so Damon really has an advantage here, I believe. He's just setting up contains all over the map, and finally Scorpio does start this expansion down here at the 7 o'clock position, which does have a gas available to it, but he has a lot of gas. He has 1,000 gas, so he's not really worried about gas. He needs to find a way to break this contain and establish some sort of map control, because he's not going carriers. He doesn't have arbiters, so he has no recalls. He only has, I think, 1 shuttle, so he's not going to be doing any sort of crazy drop or reaver harass. Basically, Scorpio's entire force is all infantry, and if he can't break this contain, he's never going to be able to win this game, because he has no other way of killing Damon or advancing into the middle of the map and doing any damage. So the longer Damon has this contain set up, the bigger the hole that is being dug for Scorpio, and it's going to be really tough for him to come back and win this game. I believe he's too contained, and Damon is just macroing too heavily now. He's got one, 2, 3, 4, 5 factories and 2 with machine shop attachments. So he's going to be producing vultures from 3 factories and tanks from 2 factories, and laying down mines and vultures, and he's got tanks sieging on this expansion, and this game is pretty much out of reach for Scorpio now, I believe. It's obviously not over. Crazier things have happened, but I just don't see Scorpio coming back in this game, unless he just pulls out something ridiculously crazy that I'm not even anticipating.